the queen of the party in this Miller time, been lining these eyes since a quarter of nine. The greatest of all doing this is, excuse me, sir, yeah, I'm talking to you. Your profile says you were 6'2".
That was fighting for gay rights, and people were killed.
Nobody was killed at Stonewall.
Nobody was killed.
Some of the most bizarre talent shows in Drag Race history always come from a result of a contestant doing something completely unexpected. At the same time, just because something is weird or abnormal compared to what we normally are used to seeing doesn't necessarily mean that it will end up being a bad showcase. So let's go over some of the weirdest, most bizarre talent shows in history. And we'll also assign them to one of 3 different categories. The first category is weird but brilliant, which includes performances that, while yes, they are bizarre, it actually still ends up being a very positive, entertaining showcase. The second category is what am I watching? This is for the performances that to this day, we still struggle to understand what the purpose was. And the third category is train wrecks. This is for straight up bad performances that weren't even worth the risk for the queen. But before we start, so lately I've been thinking about how much time we spend online and how important it is to actually own a little piece of it. Whether it's for your art, your work, your brand, or just a place to collect everything you're doing, having your own website changes the game. And that's why I'm happy to say that this video is sponsored by Squarespace, a great supporter of this channel. I've used Squarespace to build my own website, and the process genuinely surprised me with how straightforward it was. Their templates look clean and modern right off the gate. Editing them is honestly kind of fun. It's drag and drop and super visual. No coding, no weird backend setup, just you and your ideas coming to life. What's more is everything you need is built in, from custom domains and SEO tools to full-on e-commerce and payment. It's all there in one spot. You can even check your site traffic and sales with their analytics dashboard, which I love. It keeps things simple but smart. If you've been thinking about starting a site or even just centralizing everything you're already doing, now's a good time. You can start with a free trial by clicking the link in the description and getting an additional 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain, plus supporting my channel in the process. Now let's begin. Start off, we have Jimbo from UK vs. the World Season 1. This was Jimbo's first introduction to an international audience. Before this, she made her debut on Canada's Drag Race Season 1 hosted by Brooklyn Heights. For her to be on the first international all-star season and get to be judged by RuPaul was a big deal. With that came the challenge of what the mainstream fan base who hadn't tuned into Canada's Drag Race were gonna think about her. And she clearly decided to be extremely bold with her first impression. It became bizarre from literally the moment that we started seeing other queens doing their talent shows, and whenever it cut to the audience, all you could see was Jimbo sitting with the other queens, and you couldn't help but focus on her, wondering what the hell she was even wearing. Once it was finally her turn, you could not take your eyes off the screen, and the twist just kept on coming. The gag of the lunchbox, the random stack of bologna falling out of her crotch, tied together by this character she had created, was clearly successful with consistent laughs from everyone on set. It even climaxed in Jimbo throwing bologna around and eventually at RuPaul, and Ru actually catching it. It was arguably one of the biggest gambles that a contestant had ever taken in terms of showcasing something that was so far out there that if it didn't land, it could have sealed their fate towards a very negative outcome. But that didn't end up happening. Jimbo would go on to place in the top 2 for the talent show, so she'll be going into our weird but brilliant category. Next, we have Willow Pill from season 14. When Willow Pill debuted her talent show in early 2022, she already managed to become a standout character in her group when it came to storyline, because her entrance outfit simplicity, aka mall drag, had the other queens questioning whether she was someone that they would even have to be looking out for. This contrasted with her coming out of nowhere as someone that was clearly aligned with RuPaul's sense of humor, created the perfect climax of a performance. Willow's talent show was bizarre because in a sea of queens doing generic original songs, she decided to do an interpretive dance to one of the most iconic memeable songs in internet history. The story was simple. Throughout the song, she would prepare her bath by throwing a bunch of stuff inside until getting to the gag of her throwing a toaster in the water and subsequently falling into the bath, twisting the whole performance into into a dark comedy type of sketch. To this day, I haven't met someone that didn't at least find this to be very witty and among the best that we've seen from the main series. Plus, it ended up paying off for her as she placed high, cementing herself as an early frontrunner. So Willow Pill will be going into the weird but brilliant category. Irene Dubois from season 15. The worst time to mess up a performance has to be when you're literally on your very first season of Drag Race ever. Except your episode is special because they decided to get rid of the split premiere and break the record for the most contestants to have ever competed on one season of Drag Race. So now you have one episode to prove yourself worthy out of a sea of 16 total contestants. Irene Dubois had started off exceptionally well on the premiere of season 15. Her entrance look was really cute, and she was already providing sound bites by saying shady things as the girls walked in. Or even her moment with Luxe Noir London where she accused Luxe of lying about her wig being 30 inches long. To most people, it seemed like she was being set up as one of the early storylines we would be seeing for the season, but fate had worse things headed her way. Irene's talent show consisted of making a glass of ice water. It was an attempt at leaning in on absurdity, only it didn't land. Instead, what should have been filled with laughter from the audience turned into long drawn out silences, as Irene struggled to do her performance, even knocking down a few things, all while the audience stared at her blankly. It was painful because most talent shows that do bad at least had a concept behind them that oftentimes could have been good if executed differently. For Irene though, her idea was so far out of the box that even on paper it wasn't sounding like a good idea. So it was bewildering that she had practiced this at home and at no point none of her friends told her that maybe she should have a backup talent show just in case. Regardless, this resulted in Irene landing in the bottom 2 and subsequently getting eliminated on the very first episode of her season, and cementing herself as the lowest placing queen in history at 16th. For this reason, Irene will go into the train wrecks category. Koko Montrice from All Stars 2. The very first talent show had no expectations because it was these queens that would be setting the standard for what was to come. Koko was known as a lip sync assassin on her season, which wasn't a surprise given her history of being a Vegas showgirl. But after production said they wouldn't be able to let her do a Janet Jackson number, she decided to go a whole different direction with an interpretive dance. Only she was taking it very seriously. There was virtually no comedic elements to this performance, and even in terms of dancing, there wasn't a lot of skill being displayed either. It was all just an extremely bland performance in what should have been her time to rise to the occasion and really show the tricks that she had up her arsenal. She'd subsequently be placed in the bottom 3 and ended up being the first queen eliminated from All Stars 2. So we'll put Koko into the train wrecks category. Kairen Thrax from UK season 6. In 2024, it felt like we had seen it all. Given that there had been dozens of talent shows, it becomes more difficult for there to be one that stands out from the others. Kairen Thrax managed to cement her place in the Drag Race stratosphere when, on the premiere episode of UK season 6, she did her bizarre sketch with a character she had created called Susie, which was a giant furry tumor growing out of her back. The performance centered around them making a quick sandwich, but the joke of it is all the interactions between Kairen and Susie, who Kairen is voicing over. Ultimately, it was a goofy enough interpretation that won over the audience at home, and RuPaul, with Kairen landing in the top 2 for the episode and ultimately winning the first challenge. Therefore, we're going to be putting Kairen into the weird but brilliant category. Karen from Finance from Down Under season 1. This season had a lot of terrible reasons for why it's among the worst editions ever, and the talent show from Karen is one of them. Even though Karen had managed to have such a big fan base thanks to Trixie and Katja famously shouting her out on their YouTube series, when it came to the competition, Karen oftentimes was very generic in her approach to challenges. Therefore, her talent show was another one of those moments. When she came out, all we see her do is blowing a balloon and making a balloon animal, only for as soon as the most basic balloon animal was made, the performance is over and you're left wondering, that's it? And it didn't really work out because she got negative critiques and was almost up for elimination. Regardless, since this talent show isn't iconically good or iconically bad, I'll have to put Kairen into the what am I watching category. Now we have Q from season 16. The premiere episode of this edition was pretty stacked. Q's talent show automatically stood out against the rest that night because of the sheer visual gag in itself. The idea to stick her head through a glory hole and pretending to be this person with a very small body dancing around on stage like a puppet, while it's not something she invented, it was the first time we had seen something like this on Drag Race. It's actually a perfect mix of bizarre yet still digestible talent shows that don't have as much debate as to whether it is good or not. While Q would go on to play safe for this, we will have to put her into the weird but brilliant category. Peach from Drag Race Belgium season 1. If you ever feel like everything has already been done before, you need to remind yourself of Peach, who decided to showcase the talent of whipping out a plastic sword and proceeding to balancing it on her head for a couple seconds. And that was literally the entirety of her show. While she ended up just placing safe, Peach went on to be an online meme thanks to the help of @HugeAsAMammoth on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, etc., who isn't afraid to remind us every couple months of the genius behind the sword balancing act of Peach from Drag Race Belgium season 1. For now though, we will be putting Peach into the what am I watching category. Eva La Queen from Global All Stars. What made this season special is that while it was the 5th International All Stars to take place, it was the first one that would be produced by the main production of the franchise, meaning the cash prize would be $200,000 USD, the largest amount of any International All Stars thus far. Along with that, it featured a cast of 12 queens, each representing a different country. This would provide the queens from non-English speaking franchises to be able to showcase themselves to the mainstream audience. Eva La Queen represented the Philippines franchise. With that, her talent show was a campy sketch of her trying to make some rice. But in the process of doing so, she has to engage in a series of battles, which included a giant dinosaur appearing out of nowhere. The sketch ends in her going back to the rice maker and realizing it was unplugged the whole time. It all ended up paying off, becoming one of the highlights for the episode online, and the judges putting her in the top 2 for the week. So we'll put Ava into the weird but brilliant category. Now we have Serena Chacha from All Star 6. Nobody had high expectations when it came to the return of Serena Chacha, and that could have worked to her favor. It was no secret that she was the underdog out of the whole cast. All she had to do was make sure that she managed to put together a decent talent show, because she was gonna be getting looked at with a magnifying glass due to the fact that she had done very poorly on season 5. Despite this, Serena decided to do an original song about wigs, which made sense because she has a wig company. Only the staging featured a set of a couple wigs on a table, and as Serena dances around singing about how to style a wig, she never once touches the wigs themselves, amounting her talent show to a one-note, bizarre choice to do for your second chance in almost 10 years. She would end up being the first queen eliminated from the season due to this performance, and therefore we'll be putting her into the train wrecks category. Now we have Mayhem Miller from All Stars 5. Even when Mayhem was on her original season, she had all eyes on her because she was known among the diehard fan base for many years until she finally got the call to compete on season 10. Yet, even though she managed to win the first challenge, she had a pretty mediocre trajectory that resulted in her ultimately going home early and placing 10th. So when she returned to All Stars 5, the expectation was that she'd come in guns a-blazing. But instead, she ended up doing her talent show number and forgetting the words to the song that she had written herself. It's bewildering when this happens, especially for a talent show, because it's a challenge designed for you to literally do whatever you want, and you have time to prepare before you even fly out to film. Regardless, we will be putting Mayhem's All Stars 5 talent show into the train wreck category. Next up, we have Mayhem Miller from UK vs. the World season 2. You know, when Mayhem returned years later to yet another Drag Race season, and the subsequent reveal that the premiere would be yet another talent show, I was excited to see Mayhem finally be able to redeem herself. Despite this, she she would end up doing something better, and that was creating one of my most favorite reaction videos. When in the middle of her performance, which consisted of her being this relaxation expert, she would end up laughing at one of her own jokes and derailing the rest of the performance as she realized she had messed up yet again. It was bizarre that literally the worst possible outcome happened to her 2 times in a row. She would subsequently be eliminated this same episode, becoming the first queen of the season to go home. So we will be putting Mayhem into the train wreck category yet again. Sierra missed from season 18. This is the most recent talent show to have taken place out of this whole list. What makes Sierra's decision to do this poetry rendition of her internal struggles and do this serious performance art on the main stage is that there was a lot of warning signs as to why this would be a bad idea. At this point, there was so many other talent shows that had taken place where contestants decided to do something serious instead of something funny or impressive/entertaining, and they would all just end up flopping in front of the judges. This talent show would end up placing Sierra in the bottom for the episode, and she would end up getting eliminated. Yet we will still be putting Sierra into the what am I watching category. Plain Jane from season 16. It was pretty obvious to most people watching that Plain created her talent show to pander towards what she knew was the type of comedy that RuPaul found funny, which was smart. Her whole song about a burger finger and a performance that consisted of her walking around on the stage like a buffoon had the fan base very divided on whether this deserved to be so well received by the judges. I'm actually curious to hear your opinion on whether you liked Plain's talent show, because it's probably the most controversial out of this whole list. So let me know in the comments. For now though, we will be putting Plain into the what am I watching category, because even though she did end up in the top 2 for the challenge, to this day, nobody knows what the purpose of that performance was. Out of this entire list, which talent shows do you think are the most bizarre? Or is there a talent show that didn't make the list that you'd like to see in a part 2? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll see you guys next time. If you've been thinking about starting a site or even just centralizing everything you're already doing, now's a good time. You can start with a free trial by clicking the link in the description and getting an additional 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain, plus supporting my channel in the process.